Well, good morning. Well, entrepreneurs are mostly crackpots, and the successful ones are the ones who hit the jackpots, right? So, I think US is the place for entrepreneurship. I came from India in 1973. I've been in Boston area now since 1984 for about 26, 27 years. I started most of my companies in Boston. And in the 80s, when we started companies, either Ted or myself, there used to be very few examples. There were maybe a handful of entrepreneurs around. And it used to be, you really had to sort of go out of your way to meet entrepreneurs or start companies. Whereas now, it's a part of the career. And I think most of you are professionals in either promoting entrepreneurship or teaching entrepreneurship. So what I want to do is to talk a little bit about that part of it. Last 10 years or so, I sort of stopped being the CEO entrepreneur, but mostly becoming a coach, and also our philanthropy is all focused on promoting entrepreneurship. So I just want to share a couple of ideas in terms of what we're doing. How many of you are in the business of educationists for entrepreneurship? Okay, so most of you. So, I joined the MIT board about 12 years ago, and the MIT obviously is a great place for entrepreneurship. In fact, in the last 10 years, the MIT alumni have started 25,000 companies in US, and their top revenue, if you add them all up, is about $3 trillion. So MIT is a great place. And so the center that we have there is not so much to promote entrepreneurship, but to really see if we can get professors to come up with ideas that can actually lead to some companies. To really get the companies going, you need 4 things to come together. You need a good idea, you need a great entrepreneur, you need some mentorship, and you need access to capital. And this conference is all about entrepreneurship. And when you talk about entrepreneurs, you can sort of look at it from 2 ways. You can sort of work on, part of my job working in Washington on that council is to come up with policies, is to see how we can actually, we spend about $150 billion a year in research and development. So the question is, how can more of that thinking lead to more companies and so on? But policy is about reducing friction and making more of these companies possible, and also facilitating them to be high growth companies. But entrepreneurship, on the other side, when we teach young people to be entrepreneurs, I think the message I tend to give is that don't worry about all that stuff. Don't worry about policy. You just have to bulldoze through your idea. Your conviction and your perseverance has to be strong enough that you will make it happen. An entrepreneur does not wait for a policy, right? And I presume all of you are in the business of teaching entrepreneurship, and therefore not really in a position to make big policies, but really teaching people how to be entrepreneurial. And US is probably the most entrepreneurial place, but so far for the last 50 years, it's been a nice thing to have, but for the next 25 years, it's the only thing to have, because unless we have enough entrepreneurs, we're not going to be able to create all the jobs that we want. This country starts roughly about 500,000 new companies every year, and they consistently for the last 15 years have generated about 4 million jobs a year. And so we need more of those companies, and we definitely need them to be higher growth companies. And opportunities are there, because we know that the world changes rapidly, and in the next 10 years, it'll change as much as the world has changed in the last 50 years, and every change is led by an entrepreneur. So how do you train entrepreneurs and get them to think about having an opportunity to do this? So one of the experiments we're doing, which is to, in universities, get universities to think about their ability to teach, not just as limited to the campus, but view the whole society as a part of their lab. So this experiment we did in India, and a program that we brought back to US again. So about 8 years ago, we went to this area in India, and in India there is not a lot of entrepreneurship, particularly in the areas where people live on $1 a day. So we took an area of about 5 million people, and we are funding about 60 interventions to do different things. But one of the things was to actually create enough local leadership and enough entrepreneurship. So a lot of these students in colleges in India usually have a reputation of memorizing answers and just spitting out the answers. So you don't really get a lot of creativity, a lot of leadership and so on. And so we said, well, what can we do about this? So we spoke to the heads of the institutions, and none of them wanted to do anything. They said, why would a student want to do anything other than get good grades and get a good job? So we decided to take it directly to the students. And so we came up with this program called LEAD, and this whole area, we call it the Social Innovation Sandbox. The idea is to create a Silicon Valley of social entrepreneurship. And so we allow 4 students to come together, pick any problem they want in the society. We give them about 500 rupees, which is like $10. And then they have to sort of figure out how they're going to solve that particular problem. And that's been a mega hit. You know, within 3 years now, we have 10,000 students doing 2,500 projects. And so, because a big part of being an entrepreneur is picking your own problem, finding where your passion is. And so we brought that program back to this Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, Lowell and Lawrence is probably the 43rd poorest town in the United States. And so we're doing this social innovation sandbox in Lowell and Lawrence, and that area has University of Massachusetts Lowell and about 4 or 5 community colleges, collectively about 30,000 students. So we're trying to do some similar program where a few students can come together, they pick a problem, any problem they want in this society, and then they say, I want to solve this problem. And if we think it's a good team and they can do something, we give them $500. And so within the $500, they raise their resources and they actually go out and solve the problems. So we started this program about 9 months ago, and we've gone through 2 terms now. And it looks like people really enjoy that. People really enjoy, because being an entrepreneur is all about thinking about an idea, getting passionate about it, and then solving that problem without a whole bunch of direction as to how you go around doing it. And so, you know, I think creating opportunities, experiential opportunities for people to do something on their own is probably a big part of being an entrepreneur. You know, I became an entrepreneur because I somehow landed up in some place where we had a very high growth opportunity, and I was a part of something that became very successful. Once you get a taste of taking the initiative and do something and be successful, it becomes addictive, and people just get hooked on it. Once they get hooked on it, then they do things that are entrepreneurial. So I think anything you can do within your learning, teaching entrepreneurship, if you can create experiential learning opportunities at low cost. You know, because one of the things in US is that most of the programs we come up with very quickly tend to be very expensive, and that therefore they don't scale. But if there is a way we can use the society. Another university that uses a lot of this is Arizona State University. Michael Crow, the president there, he's very passionate about this concept. So what he does is he looks at all the different issues that the city has, Phoenix has, and then he says students can just go solve any problem they want, and he'll find a way to get some small funding for these people. So getting students, because the problems are everywhere. I mean, there's no lack of problems, and every problem is an opportunity to solve that. So I would say that's a concept that I wanted to share with you, and let you know that we've been having fairly good success, and would like to develop that a little bit more. So if any of you are working on such ideas, I would love to chat with you.